Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What Do You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that will hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's episode, the Blue Bloods of the What Do You Say Anime podcast will be reviewing the 2003 anime film RahXephon. Let's meet today's interdimensional time travelers. Normally, this is the part where I start saying funny lines, but with such a large cast, let's keep it simple. Joining us today is our lovely cast, Jay, Kat, Johnny, Has, and Happy, along with our two moderators, Miles and Pat. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's toss it over to Pat.
Yeah, man, I can't remember what's going on right now. I don't know, must be the blue blood inside of us, right? It's so weird getting to the same introduction that everyone else gets too. It's nice, this episode. I'm liking it so far. But yeah, so we're talking about RahXephon, specifically the anime film as well. The important to note that this is not there is a series, and then this movie essentially was created as a TV only version or a summarized version of the 26 episode anime, and it's only a 2 hour long movie. And the director apparently has said that they didn't have a lot of time to work on this either. Not so they weren't very happy with the final product. And I think that we'll talk about a lot of things throughout the show that or throughout this episode where more explanation would have been nice. But still, I think most of us had a good time with it. Let's find out, though. So why don't we start with Miles, as we always do? Again, this is spoiler-free. First 20 minutes or so of the movie, let's say, or what were your first impressions, stuff you knew going in, etc. Go ahead.
Sure. Going in, I knew nothing, not a single thing. This is alternate universe movie about a show that I've never seen before. That I had never heard of before. I knew that there were mechs in it. And then I knew that given the fact that it's a movie that like mostly condenses the story of like a two-core anime, that I would probably be confused along the way. I certainly was confused, but I was also like kind of hype most of the time too. So I was like, "What's happening?" And like there'd be a scene where I'd be like, "What does this mean?" And then it wouldn't matter because like the next scene something really cool would happen. So like that was kind of fun. Um, the beginning honestly isn't too confusing. The first impressions were this was definitely better than I thought it was going to be. It's definitely not like a masterpiece or anything. And I don't think I'd recommend it. What I would recommend, I think, and I haven't seen the series, but like there's enough there to make me say like if this seems interesting to you, go watch the series, which I think is probably a better decision than what we did, where we watched the movie. Those are my thoughts.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think I would definitely recommend the movie over, or not the movie, the series over the movie as well. In hindsight, but hey, well, we learned for you guys so that you looking back at this 2003 series that is number 3,890 on the ranking and 4,785 in popularity. That's crazy. Kat, what about you?
So, much like Miles, the only context that I had for this show was that it existed. And that was brought to my attention by Happy and then picked up by Pat.
Yeah.
So, the thing that I really I it's interesting. That's one thing I could say, which is what I say about every show, but uh honestly, I don't. I'm not sure if I would recommend it. I mean, a lot like Miles said, if you like this, you probably should watch the show. And one thing that I will say is that this show kind of follows the same pattern as, oh, well, from what I understand, because I haven't watched the show yet. It kind of follows the pattern of like the One Piece movies, where like it's not really meant for people get into uh to get into the show itself. It's meant for people that have already watched it just to get a recap. That's my opinion on it. I like I wouldn't recommend it. But if you do think it's interesting, probably watch the show and then watch the movie if you're into that.
Yeah, there you go. I think it's funny. Most of the recommendations for this movie are either Gundam or Neon Genesis Evangelion. So I think there's some similar themes there in a lot of these, and Escaflowne as well, which is another really classic mecha anime. Uh, Has, what have you got?
Yeah, man. You know me. I'm a simple guy. I enjoy lots of things, and this show, movie, was really fun. And what I will say is that despite condensing all that content into one movie, the first half of it was still more easy to follow than Fireworks. Now I don't know if that's a pro for this or just me wanting to fucking slander Fireworks, but it is true, and I really enjoyed what was there. But despite how much I enjoyed what was there, with the glimpses of good animation and interesting designs and like the mechs and the enemies and the characters and all that shit, the problem is I feel like you just should watch the series, you know. And so I'm not gonna recommend this, despite how much I enjoyed it. I'm gonna recommend the series, and then this is some supplements because there's some stuff in here that they add in that's pretty dope. The main character fucks pretty good. It's a pretty good movie if you ask me, but I can't recommend it. I'm sorry. Next person.
Yeah, she came back for more. She
Came
yeah.
back and came back for sure.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Pete, what about you?
This was a prime example of a show where I had zero expectations for it. On the surface level, it looks, to me, just looks bad. The cover art of a like 15-year-old kid posing like he's Adonis or something like that really didn't turn me on. As I started watching the movie, though, I had a very enjoyable time of what was on my screen. I kind of like the chaoticness of not knowing what we're watching because the plot was so all over the place. To me, if I were to recommend this, if you have 2 hours and you need to kill and you're looking for a entertaining movie, I would actually recommend this movie. If you want to sit down, if you want to divulge more into the series, kind of like if you're a fan of Neon Genesis, where there's more information online, if you're into that type of thing, I would recommend the series. But overall, I would recommend RahXephon to the people who like the political, maybe like sci-fi fantasy aspects of like Neon Genesis, Gurren Lagann, some Gundams, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think if you watch the first 20 minutes and you're like, I like this, you should stop and then go watch the series, you know? Like maybe that's probably a good way to say this. Maybe not even 20 minutes cuz I don't know, it does start out a little slow, I think. Maybe first 30 minutes, let's say. But yeah, Jay, what about you?
Um, I honestly am just gonna echo what everybody else said and say that I think that the opening scene is really fun, like pretty solid. It obviously is kind of like a hook to get you interested in what was actually going on because they don't explain anything in the opening scene, more or less. Um, I think that I agree with your point that you just said, Pat, where if you enjoy that opening scene, consider stopping it and going and watch the series instead. I do like, yeah, I think that that's overall going to be the resounding point of our review tonight is
Mhm.
that things are probably better explained in the series overall. And I don't think it's necessarily the movie's fault. It's more of like we just happen to watch the movie before we watch the series for us, you know?
Yeah, it is weird too to think about that. Like this, according to the wiki at least, and according to other people that we did a little bit of research beforehand. Uh, Apparently they changed some things in the movie too. I don't know, Miles, you might be able to point out specific things later on more so. But I do know it apparently did change some story points or some characters. So that's it. I'm curious to see what that would be. But yeah, Johnny, what about you?
So I'll be honest, like I don't really have too much from other people as well. Only that like yeah, I kind of disagree with Jay on the fact that like it's not the movie's fault. I think it kind of is because like there were just some scenes where just like it's one thing happens and then he's in a mech and then he's shipped off to Jupiter and then this girl just dies. Sorry, spoilers, but yeah, someone dies. It's just like it's so all over the place that I can't take the show seriously. You know, it's like I try to like like really like pay attention and like understand the stuff that's going on. But I think like after 30 minutes, I just gave up. It's just like yeah, I'm just gonna accept that this is what I'm seeing. So you
Yeah.
know, like if I would I. No, I wouldn't recommend this. You know, like maybe if I watch the series itself, which I'm not going to, but like it would be better. But like if Evangelion can like shorten it, which to be fair, they split it up into like 2 movies, but like I still feel like because I watched that and I could understand the series. I feel like it could have been done better. But yeah, I would not recommend this.
Mm. All right. And last but not least, the legendary Happy, who yes did start the nomination train for this. He nominated this randomly during one of our Watch Club episodes. God knows, maybe a year ago almost now, and I picked it up because I was like, "Whoa, that cover art is fascinating to me." So here we are. Happy, what have you got for us?
Right, right. So I nominated this because I had watched the series and I still like the series and liked watching the movie, but knowing what I do from the series and seeing how stuff got changed and condensed, it hurt. It actually hurt. Um, so I would basically echo what everybody else said and recommend the series and then maybe watch the movie afterwards to see what was changed.
That's interesting. So you do. We're gonna be asking you a lot of questions today, I bet. Then, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on the movie. And yeah, I've already kind of put my thoughts in. I would highly recommend the series. As long as you like mechs and stuff and dramas and things like that. Like I wouldn't recommend this to like a normie seasonal watcher. Not that that's an insult, but it's just like it's not that kind of show, or it doesn't seem like it's that kind of show. It's very like drama heavy, and I like that aspect of it, but other people don't. So yeah, why don't we get started? Miles, do you have any specific talking point that you'd like to start us off on?
Yeah, I want to start us off with like a nice and easy one before we sort of delve into the relatively convoluted plot. I feel like this movie
Yeah.
has like a
Spoilers
relatively
going forward,
simple
by the way.
plot, and then like some weird stuff that's happening to like the side of that. However, this is the fourth oldest show that we have watched on Watch Club, being from 2003. Um, but I have to say, like, I thought the animation and like the production quality and stuff of this was like pretty good. Um, I'm certainly not an expert on things like that. I often say I don't care about animation, um, but so I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts and stuff on this. But like I thought the sound design was pretty good. I thought the visuals were great. There were things that were done during fights and stuff that were very engaging to me. Um, does anyone in particular have any thoughts on that? And you know, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
actually. So personally, I and this may just be me like reading into it a little bit too much, but I feel like the animation in this movie was it is like above average, especially for the time, but I don't think it's like really revolutionary because I mean Akira came out in God knows how long ago. Well, I don't remember anyway. Which actually we need to watch Akira because I don't
we
think we've watched.
we have
We have,
Oh,
1988.
we have,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
we have an episode
I don't
about
think
I
it.
you
need to
was.
watch
I
Akira
don't think you
then.
were here for that, but we did.
You were on that
But
episode.
wait, I
Oh, he
was.
was.
Oh, damn. I I need to watch Akira again. I guess. I, my brain is fried right
It's the
now.
blue blood
But
getting to him. It's
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Um.
filthy blue blood. Okay, anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, like the animation is for its time, it's really really good. But like for now, it's kind of closer to average, and I think that's just the way that uh that animation has improved, and I think that's a really good way to for people now to get into the series because a lot of the people that are watching shows right now they're watching things that are on par in animation wise at least when they're deeper in anime and know what they want to watch. So if you're like in the mecha anime that is, I don't know, around the same animation quality or things like that, I think it'd be a good watch,
Yeah,
at least visual wise.
No, I agree. I think that I share the sentiment. That it's average now, but we've watched older stuff and it hasn't held up, and we've watched newer stuff that hasn't held up, and I think this is held up. Pete, you have thoughts?
Yeah, first I want to say I don't think it's fair to compare it to like Akira, which at the time was the highest produced, like the most money invested into a animated movie ever at like $9 million.
Movies a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
In the
literally the
West,
reason why we have
basically.
things like Your Name and stuff like that is because the foundation that Akira sent. This was more of just a retelling of the series. It seems like of like cutting and pasting some clips and stuff like that from
Wasn't
the
this
series,
like
but
made for TV as well?
yeah, it was made
Like,
for
was.
TV. Yeah, but I think it's really cool to see things like this is Studio Bones in 2003, not the Studio Bones that we know today. And it's, to me, I thought it was like really interesting to see, especially like being in the scene so much of seeing like a up and coming studio nowadays, like Studio Binds, for example, that's doing like Mukosho Tensei, and seeing like, hey, they're starting with this. Who are they going to be in like 15 years? Studio Nut with like Decadence, these like newer studios at the time. Bones is a brand new studio, essentially in 2003. I think this is like their 5th anime or something like that. So I think like just a like a maybe not nostalgia, but like a historical reference of seeing Bones' previous work is just really interesting to me. Along with the fact that some of the animation in this movie I thought were like fantastic. The opening like jet fighter scene that they had when they're fighting the Muse for the first time, I thought was handled really well. It definitely like raised my expectations of what I was expecting to see, because just based off the cover art, me personally, it looks cheap. It looks old, and what I saw originally was not cheap and old. So props to Bones. I thought this was for a 2003 made for TV film. I thought this was animated and directed very well.
Oh, that's
Great.
so funny because to me, like the cover art looks like a vintage almost. It has that to me. It has the feel of like being vintage, not like weird or bad. Like I don't know. Like
Reminds me of like a
it-
'90s fantasy book or something.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that. Like yeah.
that's why I thought it was cool.
Like
But yeah,
Pat
so it has.
referenced Escaflowne.
Uh, you're not holding it up to the camera, but
On
yeah, there you go.
DVD.
I have it on
Wrong
DVD.
webpage.
I have it on DVD. Yeah.
He's holding up to the other camera, not our camera.
You
Tez,
can-
you had thoughts
I have,
on the.
I have 2 cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so fancy. Yes, has.
I
Go ahead,
remember
sorry.
that though.
Yeah, man, the animation was dope. I thought that shit was hard, Like I think, again, it looks older than when it came out though, for sure. Like it doesn't look like 2003 I think is a bit more modern than this, but I think like the detail in the RahXephon itself was super sexy. And like I know the series has good animation too, because there's a scene where someone blows the fuck up, like an alien blows up, and it's really well animated. And that's definitely from the series because it was just in the middle of fucking nowhere. But yeah, it looked great. If you like that retro aesthetic, bro, like I don't know, I don't think it just looks average now. I still think it looks great. Like I mean, maybe it looks better to me because I think some of the directing choices also complement the style. But if you want to talk about the light up scene, but I don't know if that's a whole other thing. But
I
yeah,
think we'll
I
talk
really
about that on
yeah
its own because that scene deserves its own
that scene
thing.
is just guys.
That
But
was like
yeah,
10 out of 10. Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree that it holds up. I don't think it's like mind blowingly good, but it stands test of time and does not look like bad like other older shows have. Like I wouldn't I think a lot of the action scenes, like you said, were very well done, and I don't know. It's not like Violet Evergarden where everything's sparkly and shiny and gorgeous, but it's like just solid stuff. I think all throughout. And I did note when I was watching it, I thought the first like 20 minutes, maybe it was just me being sensitive to it, but it sounded awful. I watched sub. It sounded like they were speaking in like a terrible recording studio or something. Like I don't know, it just
away from the microphone.
yeah, it was hollow, right? It sounded amateur almost like. And I don't know, maybe that was just, and maybe I just got used to it or something by the end of it, but I stopped noticing it after the first like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes of the movie. But yeah, I don't know, again, that's just something that like, maybe that's just, whenever you listen to the original 1970s Beatle releases, like they sound awful, right? Because the mic it's just recorded on a toaster, so it doesn't sound good, right? Like I don't know, I probably just upset our two 40-year-old plus listeners, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. All right. Well, I don't know.
British
So, do we want
listeners.
to? Do we have any other comments on production? Anybody have anything to throw into that hasn't been said?
I thought that the sound design was really good.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
the OST in general was solid. I liked the ancient lamentations that they used in the soundtrack. I'm always a fan of that sort of thing. Like they've been doing in Summertime Render this season is really solid. I don't know, like, and just even just the sounds of like the mecha and stuff like that, I thought was really well designed. Yeah, which is important in a movie that is thematically about like music in a way, with like the names of the dolems are all like musical terms. Tuning is obviously a musical term, stuff like that, and they control their mix by singing as well.
Yeah,
So
the screaming and stuff, like
yeah.
the single note tone thing when they were fighting. I thought that was really cool, and it sounded like it would coming in a fight too, and it wasn't like
Mm.
perfectly melodic. It was like
It was a cacophony
punches.
of
It was
notes.
punches were being thrown with those notes. Like I thought that was really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
the sound design and also during the last fight, the song that played was really really good. Or during the penultimate scene,
Yeah.
essentially, that song was just like I was bopping. I was like nodding my head along. I was like, yes, let's go, come on, go fight, win. I don't know.
I got one more thing to
Yeah, go
say.
ahead.
Um, this is mainly because I remember us bringing Guilty Crown up in the discussion before we started. Um, between Guilty Crown and this show, which are both shows that Pat has nominated and won with, I think this show holds up much better than Guilty Crown did, and Guilty Crown came out in 2011. So that's a connection that I made.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it definitely held up better than some of the older shows that we watched. But
Yeah,
yeah,
one more thing about sound design. The person who did the sound direction for this is actually the same sound director for Violet Evergarden, all pretty much all the Monogatari series, Owari no Seraph, Clannad, Dragon Maid, K-On, Haruhi, Nichijou, Free,
Ooh,
Inuyasha. He's got a fucking like
Resume.
a resume and a
resume.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so,
insane.
does he do anything other than?
No,
Never
he's just
mind.
a sound director,
No,
and
no,
he's damn good at it,
He
actually.
doesn't fucking have to, dude.
Yeah.
no. No, I'm saying does I meant that as in like, oh god, he has no life because he's done all of those series.
He's done a lot. Yeah, like it's. I've been scrolling for a good 45 seconds on his
Yeah,
page.
I was gonna say, and that's just the good ones that you're highlighting. He's probably done a bunch of other shit ones too, because that's just the nature of art, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
he's been working since like 1995 at least.
Jesus.
So
Damn.
yeah, so legendary
Yeah.
guy. His name is Yota Suruoka.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I thought it was funny the voice actors, and that's the funny thing about watching these older shows too. The voice actors and voice actresses, they're usually older people, right? They have to be at this point, after 20 years have passed since this released almost, and it's like, but we still get the main guy, Ayato or Kamina, whatever you want to call him. His voice actor was what's his name in Demon
Zenitsu.
Slayer, Zenitsu in Demon Slayer, and
Mm.
what was the other name that I said earlier? Like, it's just funny that this guy has gone from doing like a kid 20 years ago to a really annoying freaking brat the couple of years, past couple of years, and it's just so weird. Like the range, it's so cool to see their talent. I guess I don't know. They're just
Yeah.
doing their jobs, but it's very cool to see that there's some like longevity to these careers. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
Wait, you want to do my topic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a discussion topic you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. So this is for everybody that has seen these styles of shows where we watch a lot of anime, we talk anime, and when the first time that RahXephon got brought up between our group, I don't think anybody other than maybe Happy has heard about it. So, what does RahXephon not do that, say, for instance, things like Gurren Lagann, Neon Genesis, Darling in the Franxx, Guilty Crown do that would like encapsulate the audience that RahXephon doesn't, because RahXephon shares a lot of similarities with all of these shows that, for example, in like a Mal popularity or whatever, RahXephon has a 10th of Guilty Crown. It has like a 16th of Neon Genesis, where they are like very stylistic shows and not like horrendous in quality either. So, want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, Has, you have some initial thoughts on this?
Well, I think in terms of presentation between the shows that are similar to RahXephon, I think to me what sticks out about this particular one is that although obviously there are lots of allusions, and sort of imagery related to like, divinity and stuff and these other ones or stuff like that. I think this one is the most impacted by that, like in terms of art style. Like it feels almost like the only thing I can like sort of think of in terms of like there's like for example, the girl who's asleep the whole time. Like that entire set piece of like this giant room with like a bed of flowers. Where an Ava, where an Ava something like that is like you can see, like you see it towards the end, it becomes more explicit, but it's just like the same actions, or maybe it's pot or whatever, but it still looks like it belongs in Ava. I feel like the mech has fucking angel wings that are like feathers. Like they're it's some cool shit. So I think that's what makes RahXephon stand out to me, at least off of just like me not being. I looked at it and I was like, that's super cool.
But does it do something that like what do these other shows do that why RahXephon isn't on like the same level as like a Neon Genesis? Like, what do you think it's missing?
I see. I misunderstood I thought you were just saying what differentiates.
I mean, you could, that is part of the question too. But like, I guess like, was there?
Why isn't this as popular?
Was there
Neon
something
Genesis
missing for
Evangelion?
you? Like,
for me,
it had like, I mean, I thought Haruko was a baddie. Like, I don't know. Like, it had like the waifus, it had the romance, it had like, I thought like the cool like fantasy elements of the robots like Neon Genesis has. But like, why is this not Neon Genesis?
The main character wasn't a complete bitch. Like, like that's pretty nice, isn't
Shinji's
it?
the goat, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, get a tattoo of him then. I don't know.
You should.
Yeah,
You guys
okay.
have to do Shinji doing the, never mind.
Sorry.
Just to,
go ahead, Has.
I was gonna say just a real quick answer to the question, because I realized just a real quick answer to that was for me the only thing I would say that was kind of not missing, but it felt a little off, even from the even knowing that it's a movie and it's being condensed, it still felt like the events in the story and sort of the introduction to things, like I didn't really feel it like it felt like every new scene there was like a new person and a new twist, and I could see that in this, if I'm in this series or something, it becoming a little like too much, you know what I mean? Where like there's this new person, everything I have to keep learning. And like in Ava and Gurren Lagann, I think it sticks to like there are these pieces and this is what we're gonna play with. And this one I felt like even towards the end of the story with like the girl that looks exactly like, has the same name as the other girl, and the Alice in the Wonderland, like it becomes a lot, and I could see that being an issue.
Okay, let me ask you a follow-up question real quick. Do you think that Kamina being like the main character, where he's not the quiet kid, the loader type, because like we see that like Simone and Gurren Lagann at the beginning is like the quiet, following in the footsteps of Kamina. Hero and Darling in the Franxx is more of like the outcast. Shinji is the incel goat, but like Kamina, like right off the bat, is like he's especially in this movie, he's introduced as the heartthrob. He's holding hands with a girl while another girl has a love letter in his hand. Do you think something like that, where like it can't be like a self-insert character for maybe a lot of anime watchers, affect it?
I could see that affecting it. I guess it's hard now, right? Because I wasn't out when those things came out, or like paying attention. So like, now people call Shinji a bitch, and I don't know if it would have the, what I mean. But back in the day, what were people who were watching anime looking for? Like it definitely could have affected it, because it seems to be against, like you said, like what other things got popular at the time.
It's so funny because like I would rather self-project onto Haruka myself, or Kamina myself, than Shinji or anyone else because of the fact that he's like a normal person that I could see but I guess what you're saying is like for anime fans or whatever, like they might self-project better onto
And
someone who's
Pat, if you
quieter.
want to self-insert into Haruka, that's perfectly fine too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, she is a pretty badass lady. But sorry, Miles, I think you were next.
Yeah, no. So like I guess like what I think, Pete, is that timing is important for there's a few things that I think are here. Like one, like the show is very clearly, at least this movie, derivative of Evangelion in a few ways. So like if you come out early, you don't get people just being like, this is a, Ava clone. Because I feel like if you're, I don't know, let's say it's 40% similar to Evangelion, that leaves a lot of room for it to be its own thing, but it still has like the parental figure who's actually the bad guy. It has I mean, Haruka is just Masato, like aesthetically. She like has
Yeah.
very heavy Masato vibes. Um, I think that that's sort of part of it. And then Ava has a thing where it's like its characters are just so good. Like you have like people do complain that like Shinji's a bitch, but then you also have like Asuka, who isn't one, right? Like, or not not the same kind, as you would be saying about Shinji, and like how they play off of each other and how they're both dealing with their trauma and like a very similar trauma about parental abandonment in completely different ways, and because of that they don't get along, and like just all of these like interplaying things that are there. And it's not that these characters are bad, these are good characters, the ones that we got fleshed out, but like Evangelion's characters are like really good, like really good. Why, and then like that's why it doesn't stand out compared to that. It also doesn't have as much of a gimmick as like say Guilty Crown, right, which is like really pushing like idol culture and like songs, and they put together a band for the show, which is like a pretty big deal. I think that that might be the kind of thing. Mecha were also a little more common back in the day, so I don't know, maybe it just had a harder time standing out because uh, you know that was just a more popular genre at the time. Something can be solid but not do anything special, and if there's a market saturation at the time for whatever it is, sort of get lost. And I think that's probably
That's a good point.
my guess.
I think too, like what you said earlier, Pete, you kind of answered your own question before you asked it. Like you said, Bones, this is like their fourth thing they've ever done. Like, they were formed in 1998. Think about like who was behind Gurren Lagann, Gainax, Trigger, like some of the biggest names in anime. So they probably automatically had a following and
That's a good
a
point.
base version. And this is an anime original as well, which of course I guess Gurren Lagann is, and so is
Evangelion.
Evangelion. But again, they were originals done by Gainax, done by it was Gainax also Evangelion. My brain's having a
Yeah,
fart.
they're the same.
Yeah, it was okay. And even Guilty Crown, I believe. Gosh, who were they?
Is that like
I
A1 or something?
I think it's
A1.
A1. Yeah, it's A1. So there you go. That's another one that like they automatically would have that fan base versus Bones might not have at the time. Like you said, I don't know if it was their fourth show ever, but it was one of the first like 5 that they had ever done. Um, so yeah. But Happy, what have you got for us?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so you guys were talking about comparing it with Neon, Evangelion, and uh, that's more of a Western comparison because, from what I understand, in Japan, it's more likely to be compared with a show called Raideen, which is where it takes a lot of inspiration from. So yeah, it's yeah, the Ava comparisons is just because Western fans are more likely to be familiar with that than whatever Raideen is.
Yeah. Well, I think it does definitely all the biblical. There's a little bit of the biblical stuff that Evangelion has, and then also Misato does. I mean, even the hair color is the same as
Yes, very
Haruka,
true,
right?
very true.
Like it comes off, and Mecha too. Like Mecha was very new to the West. I feel like when Evangelion took off, right, compared to I guess Gundam had already existed, right? But
Yeah,
Fun
yeah.
fact,
but
though,
this is what made it blow up, I guess.
the
Yeah,
director of RahXephon was brought on to the rebuild of Evangelion as a costume designer.
that's very cool. That God, there's so many little nuggets. Like how does no one know what this show is? It's so interesting. But yeah, sorry, Kat, I believe you're next.
Actually, I was gonna let Jay
Yeah,
go
we're gonna
now.
have Jay go and then
Oh
Kat.
yeah, go ahead.
So, in about why it's might have not been popular. If you take a look at the season where RahXephon came out, it was in winter 2002, and another really popular anime came out at that time. A little project known as Full Metal Panic, which was being done by Studio Gonzo, who is also coming off of a really hot streak, having just done Hellsing. So it might have something slightly to do with that there, because Full Metal Panic is extremely popular.
Yeah,
That's true.
I've heard of that. That was kind of crazy.
Don't forget Onegai Teacher as well.
Of course.
So-
And don't
so-
forget Beyblade came out for
yes,
the
of
first
course.
time.
Holy
Beyblade
shit!
2002. Come
I had
on.
Beyblade on disc. That shit's a classic.
Anime was
that's-
so different. I'm just looking at the season. It's crazy.
It is crazy, isn't it?
Do you guys want a
yeah,
trivia
there-
question?
Yeah, hit us.
Do you know what studio Gonzo turned into currently, present day?
Gonzo these nuts.
Oh,
Oh, I wish.
Gonzo is now.
We're done with the podcast.
That's the second. That's the second nut joke. Studio Gonzo is now Studio Wit.
Ooh,
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Snap.
So
No wonder they
Rosario
snapped.
Vampire was done by Studio Wit.
Yeah.
It's a fucking
the timeline.
classic.
It makes sense that it was Studio Gonzo then.
Yeah.
Only
there you go.
Studio Wit could fit that many penny shots in an anime.
So,
Yeah, that's
so,
very true.
uh,
So anyways, happy. Sorry, continue, please.
so what you're saying is Anya Forger is gonna be Mocha in next season of Spy Family.
Whoa!
Spoilers.
God, we hope not.
Eden Academy turns into the vampire. Oh man.
let's stop speculating on this. I can't. I need something that's
I love
wholesome in my
this.
life. Okay,
Yeah.
we can't conflate the two. Kat, did you have thoughts on the popularity of this and like why it might not have stood out?
Yes. So the reason why I think it wasn't as popular is because when you think about things like Neon Genesis or things like fucking what was it? What were you talking about?
Gurren
Gurren
Lagann.
Gurren Lagann. There it is. When you think about those, like a lot of the time you have a lot of controversy with it. So of course, and controversy being in the form of either characters or whether somebody's a bitch or waifu wars. And they did have waifus in this show, but like it. I don't think it was constructed in such a way, and this might not be true because we haven't watched the series, but the whole what's her face red girl versus white girl
Oscar
Haruka-
Ray.
yes, Oscar versus Ray. I can't remember the names for some reason. Like that is one of the biggest waifu wars that has come out forever.
Ever.
Like it's huge. And also the whole fucking Shinji's a bitch now, and that's more of a more recent thing, but it still makes it current, and people still go back and watch it today, and it's now seen as like one of the classics. So just thinking about stuff like that, I'm sure that RahXephon has some controversy, but not to the level of that. Also mixed with the popularity things that we were talking about, like Studio Bones and how much money was being spent on marketing for the show and all the things going on with that. I think that was probably. I think that the not necessarily lack of controversy, but the controversy not being at the forefront of the show is one of the things that kind of held it back from being as popular as it was.
There wasn't like talking points around it, maybe.
Exactly.
Mm.
You couldn't get into an argument with somebody on the internet with like 10,000 people watching it. That's what I mean.
So I have a question that I think I want to hear from Happy because he can tell us if we're right or wrong, basically, on this, having seen the series. But like, there were definitely scenes in this movie that referenced nothing that we had seen before, and then like never came up again. I guess for me, and I want to get people's opinions on these, just quickly, but like, they really didn't bother me a ton, even though it was sort of like a dangling, participle of a movie. Like, I think it probably would have made more sense to cut them, um, from this movie at least. But what were your guys' thoughts on
It's
like on those scenes? And Happy, like, I guess quickly, like those scenes that they added, you must have known what they were talking about. How important are they to the makeup of the show, I guess?
that's hard to answer because it's not just that they add stuff; it's that they change like
Okay.
actual plot points. Like Kwan, the girl in the flower bed, she is way more prominent in the show and has much more importance. Just to give a quick example, so it is generally it's the same, but specifically it is actually somewhat very different.
Okay, so if you had to like give it a quick number between like 1 and 10, how similar is the plot of the show and the movie?
Probably a 7.
7 being very similar but with like slight changes, or 7 being like super different, or pretty different with like only minor similarities.
7 being like the same general idea, but specific events are different.
Interesting. That is very that's so weird too, because like you would think that to publish it on TV, you would want it to be essentially identical to the series. But obviously you do have to change things, I guess, because you can't just keep everything the same, because you're going from, what is it, 2 cores of anime is probably what, 7 hours of screen time to freaking 2, to
Yeah.
literally 2. You could tell it was condensed to 2 as well.
Did the dangling scenes affect anyone else? Like, or were you just able to breeze by them because of the very quick pace of the movie? Anyone?
I thought I could just breeze by them just because of the pace of the movie, and like I feel like the story, or at least the way I was consuming information, felt structured, where it was like there was like dangling events, and like then there was like some exposition dump, then with more dangling events, exposition dump, because there's like the huge speech with the mom that I felt like kind of explained some things earlier on, um, and some things going forward. And then also, there was a second scene where they sort of explain, but that's how I felt like it kind of eventually there would be some sort of explanation, or like I just used the parallels of like Evangelion and other stuff to try to fill in the blanks.
I like that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is probably what that trope was.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can, we can
yeah,
like figure it out. Pat, you have something.
Yeah, I would say that those scenes, like, I was able to ignore them because I was having enough fun with it, like, and I was, and it, like what Has kind of said too. It does that for the first like half an hour, where it cuts from scene to scene to scene, and then it slows down a little bit and gives you a bit of an explanation. So then when it started happening again, I kind of just assumed, oh, it'll explain it to me later, or oh, it'll make sense later. And that was the case with some things that happened, others not so much. So I think, yeah, a big complaint, I think, that we would all echo, and that's why we keep saying we would recommend the series over the movie, is that there are a lot of characters that we meet that we just don't learn anything about. There's a lot of scenes that happen that we're like, oh, why did that just happen? Or what is the context of it occurring this specific moment that we don't get answers for? But that being said, like, I still enjoyed it enough. Like, it's weird that because normally I hate that. I hate not getting answers, and I am still frustrated, but I didn't like sit there going, "Oh, screw this movie. It's not making any sense." I was like captivated by what was going on in every single scene that
Do
happened.
you think, knowing the context that they were basically forced to fit 2 seasons, like you just like knew it was going to happen, so you just accepted from the beginning? You wouldn't get everything answered.
Yeah, that probably helps it. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't mind the Promised Neverland's ending as well. For
Yeah.
season 2, because it's like, yeah, I realize that they're cutting a bunch of shit, and that if this is all that they can do for us, then that's all they can do.
We just lost 30 subscribers, by the way.
No, they are.
For Pat's
This is
positive
the
take on.
this isn't the first time Pat had a take on this.
I've had this take so much. Fight me. It's not that bad. It really isn't. If you're not a source reader, it's not that bad.
It's a good thing we have so many hosts on this show, so you can find somebody else to like.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll die on that hill. Right next to Mama or whatever her name was. But yeah, I don't know, Isabel. That's her name. Yeah. Either way, Pete, why don't you go?
Yeah, I think Miles made a good point of why it wasn't that big of a deal. It's because of how fast paced that the movie was. If it was slower, I feel like I would have a bigger problem. But the character like Elvie, who is like the tan jet pilot, who is randomly in a few scenes,
Yes.
it's just a blip. But it happens so fast where it's just like I kind of understand like the importance, like, oh, she's like a jet fighter for Terra or something like that. The really confusing one was like the end scene where the guy like gave his like manifesto about everything. He's like, I will not do this, blah blah blah, and then he just gets shot. Where that was just like, who are you people? That was to me, that was probably like the only like negative in that aspect, because that seemed like a very climactic point of the movie of two characters I don't know who they are. But some of the like the little blips and stuff like wasn't that big of a deal to me just because of the pacing of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there would be like 30 seconds where you'd be like, what is this? And then you just forget about it because like mechs were fighting or whatever. Kat,
Yeah.
you have something to say.
So I wasn't really too bothered by it, like a lot of you guys said. It's been a lot, like it's a lot easier to ignore a lot of the like hanging plot points that they didn't really expand upon during the movie, because it's a movie and it's based off of a show. But uh so like it's really easy to just go, okay, that was fucking weird. All right, back to mechs fighting. Cool. But I I do want to bring up a question. I don't know if this is like real.
Hold on,
like,
Kat. Don't change the topic yet.
What's up?
We're still on this topic.
I was just gonna ask, like, if the show had been changed because the manga was different from the show. Like, if
That's
the
Animated original.
no, but Cat's right. The manga is also very different from the manga, the movie, and the TV show are all different.
Yeah, but the manga came out after the show, or after the movie was developed. So that's the big thing. It's almost like believe this is what Shinkai does with his Your Name and with all the other movies that he's done.
Mhm.
He'll publish a novel after the movie to like give readers or people who are fans of it something else to read or whatever consume that might be a more almost director's cut, insider, whatever knowledge. But yeah. So it's not based on the manga though. This is based on the original story by the director and obviously the cast that wrote it.
Yeah, that's really all I wanted to point out. That's just that little tangent.
Perfect.
Great. And to wrap it up, I think Pat wanted to talk about a scene that I'm pretty sure all of us really liked. So, Pat, you can take it away.
Yeah. So I think my favorite scene in the movie, at least in terms of especially ones that were related to action, was the scene with, gosh, what was her name? Asahina, which this scene, she's basically the love interest that fell second will to Haruka, or whatever her name was, Mishima, whatever, that's changed her name, whatever bullshit that was. The scene where she knows that she's going to die, he's going to basically, he's going out to pilot the mecha, and she's like, oh, you're gonna go kill that thing. That thing is me, but I can't tell you that because I know you won't do it then, or whatever. I thought it was so cool, and like they had the text being like spread out across the city as like explosions and stuff like that. Like that was really cool. I know it was such a beautifully drawn scene, and I also thought it was You know, a little maybe a little heavy-handed with the symbolism that they use, like you know, with like literally like showing things happening. But I really liked it a lot, and I thought it was worth drawing attention to. Is anyone else has what have you got?
Yo, bro, that scene was so hard. That scene was crazy. That was you. It, you know, I don't. It's not my favorite scene. It's my second favorite scene. Him getting laid was my first favorite scene. I just thought
Fair.
that was some gas pack. But you know, for the second best scene, yo, bro,
That scene
it,
happens right after this scene in the movie, by the way,
yeah,
which I'm
but
sure it
back to
probably
back
doesn't
bangers.
happen. It does not happen, I'm sure, in the series like
No,
2 minutes later. I'm sure it's like 2 episodes
I think
later,
he
but
doesn't get laid in the series, does he?
He
no, he
does.
doesn't.
He
oh,
doesn't.
No, he
really?
doesn't.
The
No,
sex scene was added to the movie.
it was.
Wow.
Does he
That's
like
not what's in the
implied
series.
get
That's why he
laid?
asks him if she has a boyfriend right afterwards. It's
Yeah.
weird.
He asked afterwards like a real man should.
Yeah.
By the way,
Shocking. Yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, she taken? Yeah,
You,
no.
you fucking someone else.
That's
Think
very
later.
interesting.
But
I
yeah,
thought that,
my father. But the it was great. The direction was great. And it's crazy how as little as I gave a fuck about Asahina and their romance, the impact
Mhm.
was still there. And I was like, yo, that's how hard it was. The last shot of him like putting his fist through the angel's chest and like the her getting lifted. It was crazy. It was crazy. That was some gas pack. That's all I have to say.
it was so good. Ah,
yeah,
God.
no. I agree with that. Has like I would be really interested to see the impact of that scene had I cared at all about that character that was introduced like 15 minutes before she died, if that.
He was introduced in the first scene, but yeah, fair.
Yeah, I mean, you see her like standing there or whatever, and then
And
she
she's also the character on the train that you know is his child. Clearly meant to be like his childhood friend or whatever, like someone else inside the circle. You know, when she bleeds red, that's her, like the on the face. That's Asahina, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, I
It's
think
been a
you might
long
be
day.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, when the train crash happens, like I thought that was really cool. Like they show that she bleeds red, but then when he finds her or whatever, and is like, "Oh shit, her her blood's blue," and she's in denial about it, right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's red. Your blood's red. It's okay." Like I thought that was a really cool way to like foreshadow or not foreshadow to call back to hey, she was a
yeah.
normal human, but now she or was not transformed into the RahXephon or whatever they're called yet, but then she eventually became one. I
The
don't know.
golem. It was a golem she was synced to.
Golem. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Happy. So yeah, I don't know, I thought that was pretty well done at least. And I thought it was really weird how he basically is just like, all right, fine, yeah, I accept that. I'll live with her for a couple. Again, that's like one of those scenes that like you're like, oh, did he
Those are
actually
really
get a
weird.
part-time job? Like I thought he was just using that as an excuse for him then like leaving and going to do
Nerf.
RahXephon things, you know?
Yeah, that was honestly
Going,
that was so weird because
yeah,
he was
going to
like,
Nerve, yeah, yeah, he's
I
like,
know my destiny is to like pay this like Razafon, and like I'm definitely like eventually gonna find what's her name, and like we're gonna get together. But like for right now, this is fine.
yeah,
It's just
which
like
of course maybe that was him. And in the series, maybe they show that's him. Better, they show better. I interpreted it this way, anyways. But maybe they show better that it's him taking mercy or sympathy for the for the girl.
which is why you always want someone to date you, right? Like because they feel bad for you.
Well,
It's-
she didn't know that though. Yeah,
So,
that's sucks, but
good
that's
point,
just
Pat.
hey, it's true though. Like it happened. That's the way I interpreted
I
what he
think
was doing.
I've interpreted it as him just like trying to be like to pretending to be normal for like a little bit,
I
right?
thought so
Like
too.
like just ignoring the massive problems that were going to come crashing onto their doorsteps for as long as
Univer-
they could.
Universal
Well,
apocalypse and
Happy,
all
tell
that.
us which one of us was right.
Yes.
What was the question?
Well, basically, when he goes and does his little adventure with Asahina and gets a part-time job and lives life like nothing's happening, was that like in the series? For first off, does that happen in the series?
Yes, that definitely happens.
Okay. Is it implied that like he's trying to ignore everything that's going on around him, or is it more like or does he seem like kind of aware and that he's
Trying to support Asahina,
yeah?
like emotionally.
I'd say a little bit of both.
I'll take it.
All right, we'll
We'll
take
call
it.
it a
So
tie.
we'll
take it.
we'll shake on that. There
No
we
winners
go.
in this fight.
Yeah. All right. But yeah. So I don't know. I think we can probably get into our closing thoughts, which we can include. So funny. Like, there's not really a lot of boys in this series that actually like came up in the movie.
There are kind of 3 characters in the show, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest,
Yeah, and like that
and like the
matter.
mom, I guess. But
Yeah,
like,
It's
that
like
was a
I
weird
was saying
character.
in the chat we were having before the show, like there's this one point where they're doing like the military strike on the floating city, and there's this one male character who's like a high up military guy who's like, this he's basically saying like, this was my dream to do this, I will not fail, and I'm like, who does Blood think he is? Like,
Yeah.
he really thinks he's him. Like,
Yeah,
who do you
this
think you are?
stormtrooper is like stepping up, thinking he's Darth Vader.
oh my god, it's like Shield Hero Season 2 syndrome, where just like random characters show up and they're like, oh, I finally achieved my goal. And you're just like, nah, they cut your backstory, dude. Like, who are you?
Yeah, like yeah. Either way though, let's do closing thoughts and like I don't know. I think most of us really liked Haruka, I would imagine. And I assume she's most of ours best girl. I would assume. I don't
Yeah,
know,
fuck that. I'm going with Asahina. She had a way
I
cooler
like-
scene than
I
Haruka
like
ever had.
Asahina.
That's fair enough. All right, well there we go. So like I guess that, but those are really the only 2 options, I guess.
Quan, kinda.
If you like
Shito Megumi.
fucking what was essentially God, Quan's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is cool. Shito, which was the
I know
like
that's your type, Habs.
the little sister of Haruka, you know, the one that was like there to like,
Megumi,
support.
yeah.
Megumi, she was pretty cool. I thought she was funny. But she did like the annoyed faces or whatever, which was cool to see that you don't see
Got
those
the
in
lady
dramas very
that
often.
eventually turned into an old man. That was cool. If you're into that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that was
Helena.
crazy.
I think that was her father that possessed her too, is the fucked up thing. Like,
I had completely forgotten that had happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
how'd you forget that happened? That
There was a lot of stuff going on in that climax,
That
Taz.
There was a lot of
was.
stuff going on in that climax.
That person died. Yeah, they're just like, oh wow, you killed him. No.
Oh, you know what?
Better.
You guys watch Sub, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I watched
I don't-
dub. No, it's
I
a
don't-
stark
okay,
difference in
in
voice.
dub bro, it goes from the female voice to just the same old man voice.
No, it was
It's
the same
really-
old man voice. In
Oh.
the,
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
sub too.
yeah.
That shit was crazy. I was like, what the?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
All right, but anyways, yeah, let's do our closing thoughts and final score. So, Miles, why don't you start us off like always?
Yeah, absolutely. So like this I don't know. This was like a movie that I watched and I had like a pretty good time. It's certainly I would even say heavily flawed as a movie, but but like it was intriguing enough that I'll like check out the series at some point. Like it's not going to be immediately, but like at some point in my life, I'll get around to watching that series to see if it fleshes out on things. It's the type of series that not being fleshed out, where I can just ignore a bunch of these side plots, might be good or bad for the quality of the show. Like who knows? But I think ultimately it was fun. I'm gonna give it like a 6, because there are just scenes that don't. They literally do nothing. They could have just been completely cut. And it's not like superfluous scenes to the plot of the movie. It's just they never explain what the scenes are doing or who the characters are or anything like that. And like that's like a pretty major flaw. But it's definitely like a fun 6, like a popcorn 6. I'll call it. Like it's not a bad time at all.
Fair enough. All right, Kat, what about you?
I'm gonna mirror a lot of what Miles was saying, because I was about to say, oh, it's gonna be a fun 6 in my head, and then he just says the fucking words out of my fucking mouth. So, I agree with Miles with that. It is certainly something that if you are a stickler about every plot point being fleshed out, or at least somewhat hinted upon, not just like coming out of the woodwork, this is going to annoy the shit out of you, and you should probably just watch the series. But I think that this show, if you're not that type of person, is pretty. It's one of those shows that you can like sit back and watch, and uh, I mean, it's one of those movies that you can sit back and watch and waste a bit of time with because you know you're gonna have fun with it, but I mean, you know what you're watching isn't the greatest, so you're not trying to judge it analytically or just dive deep into everything. So I I like I said, I would probably give it a 6 also. So
6. Alrighty. Has, what about you?
Yeah, man. My closing
10.
thoughts. I just,
Oh god.
Sorry, I was just.
You were just making a prediction.
hey, hey, look. You know me, man. I love Evangelion, and if you just, take on a serious note, I'm fucking with y'all. But on a serious note, I really
Yeah, he doesn't like Eva.
hold on, watch him out. I really like this movie, and I think despite the fact I didn't really know what the hell was going on towards the end, I hadn't. It somehow still kept me engaged, and I feel like it's cool, like it's interesting and cool, like because I just want to watch this series now. Like, why is she in a rose bed, and why did she get kissed and then fly away in a fucking Jesus pose to the air and then evaporate? That's cool. It's just cool. The mech has angel wings. It's cool. This is a cool thing. But you should definitely watch the series. So I'm gonna give it like a 7.
There you go. 7 out of 10 from Has. All right, Pete, what about you?
Separated our winter.
Yeah, I had a really good time watching this. I like I said earlier in my beginning thing, I went into this having like the lowest of expectations. I thought I was not going to have an enjoyable time, and I was really happy that the fact that it was a movie, and when I turned on High Dive, the fact that I had a dub, I went, "Oh, great!" Like I don't have to pay attention as much as I would normally would for a show that I want to like watch. But RahXephon exceeded my expectations. I had a whole lot of fun. I get it when people watch like basic battle shonen and like the fights are cool, 10 out of 10. Like RahXephon to me was like this was an entertaining galactic space battle between blue aliens and humans, and it was all over the place. The plot at points made zero sense, but I had a really fun time watching it. So to me, based off just that, I'm gonna give it a 7. I had a really fun time watching it.
That's nice. Pete gave it a 7. Let's go. All right, let's go. RahXephon gang, rise up. All right, Jay, what about you?
I think I had a pretty good time with it. The movie, I feel like if you haven't seen this TV show, is pretty disjointed in ways. Like, I don't think it's kind of. I think it could be edited better, if that makes sense, not to have so many, like, scenes that just jump to other scenes that don't have anything to do with each other. Like, especially the added sex scene stands out with, like, it could have gone after the scene of. I know I keep harping on it, but it could have gone after the scene where he asks if the woman he just had sex with in the scene right before has a boyfriend. It could have went after that scene. That's all. Um, I think that the mecha design is really solid if you're someone who's into like super robot stuff. If you're someone who's more into real robot stuff, I don't think you'll be very interested in this at all. I think that I would enjoy seeing this more in the series so I could get some more mileage out of like the intrigue and world building because I was looking at the timeline before the show and passing it around to everybody and it seems pretty interesting. Like if you can actually get like the context for everything rather than having it condensed into like a 2 hour time slot sort of deal. I think I would definitely recommend watching the series first and if you like that then going and watching this to see what's different basically. But overall, I did enjoy what I was watching, even if it was a bit of a mind fuck at points. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is a 7 for me as well.
7 for Jay. All right, Johnny, what about you?
Yeah. I feel like I haven't really said a lot this episode, I don't really have too much that like to add on, honestly. So for me, it's just like, and part of that is because I just couldn't find it in me to like pay attention that much to this show because you like there's some shows where it's like it's confusing but it's like you want to understand it. For me, I just didn't really have that. It's like
Mhm.
I kind of just gave up trying to understand what was going on. I was just there to like watch it, like I do think it was like good look. I didn't like say this before, but like when we were talking about it, I think it does look good for its time. You know, I thought like the mech design in this was actually really cool. Like the main RahXephon with like the angel wings like on the side of his head. Like I thought that was really cool. So you know, like that has that going for it, but you know, like the plot's a disjointed mess. I really didn't like care too much for it. Yeah, just a lot of other things like that as well. So I'm gonna give the show a 5. I don't really think it's like I didn't think it was gonna like it wasn't as bad as I thought it was be, but it's still not really like my kind of show. So yeah.
Completely fair. Completely fair. Alrighty, and Happy, why don't you close us off before I go?
Sorry about that. So, what I would say is, as someone who's actually watched the series, I would probably just echo what most everybody else said and say the series is probably the better starting point. I still enjoyed what I watched, but just seeing all the changes and all the stuff that got smushed or cut just made it feel very inferior. So I'm going to give it, because my enjoyment was still relatively high, I'll still give it a 7.
7 from Happy. Alrighty. And yeah, so I would recommend going and watching the series rather than this show. That's really all I can say. I enjoyed the movie, but go watch the series. Don't watch this movie. I think 7 out of 10 is a pretty fair score for this because it uh, it's still enjoyable, but it clearly is not as good as what the series would have wanted it to be. So that brings our total score between 8 people to 52. I'll divide that by 8. So we come out to a pretty round 6.5. So well done, guys. We did a good job keeping our overall score pretty high. That's the highest or second highest I've ever had nominating a show.
Congrats, Pat.
Because
No, you're second
especially
highest.
that's why I said second highest.
Yeah.
Only behind Tadakun, which only had 4
Oh,
people rating it.
Third highest. You had an 8.0 for The Girl Who Went Through Time.
Oh, right, which also had only 4 people on it,
Yes.
talking about it. Yes, perfect.
3 people.
Either
Shout out to
3
Saint.
people. Yeah, shout out Saint. Yeah, 3 of us, and we all well, I think we counted Miles' score though.
I
So
also
that's
gave
right.
it an 8. So
That makes
yeah,
sense.
exactly. Yeah, the most 8 out of 10 movie of all time got an 8 from 4 people. Look at that. That's crazy. But yeah, so that's our discussion on RahXephon, the movie. Please, if there's anyone listening that knows a ton more details about the show or the movie as well, we would love to hear it. I know it's very unlikely because of how unpopular this series was, but I'm glad we did it. I thought it was really fun, and if you are interested in the series, please go watch it and then come back to us. Like we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But Miles, we did some voting. So what are we watching for Memorial Day weekend? May 30th will be our next episode.
yeah, absolutely. In third place, we have Punchline. We had a tie for second place between Rosario Vampire 2 and Classroom of the Elite. Now, Pete, buddy, pal,
I got my
something.
I got my
awful.
haterade.
So excited. I'm so excited.
I
Let's go, baby.
got a bottle full of
So-
haterade.
86 is an American English slang term used to indicate that an item is no longer available. However, the term is now more generally used to mean to get rid of someone or something. In the 70s, it was expanded to refer to murder. Pete, are you going to murder the show that we're watching this
I
week?
can't wait to rip apart this mediocre
I hope you
show.
switch
Well,
over
we're going to
and
be
say-
not
watching
mediocre.
Fully Cooley.
Let's fucking go!
Yo, how fucking art, yo, bro,
I worked hard
the
to make that to sell that.
convincing.
That was great.
Yeah. That was
Honestly,
like a week-long
go
project.
back,
I want
go
y'all to
back
know.
and watch my face throughout the entire thing. Because I start smiling because I think Fully Cooley won when you get to 1, and then you start saying that, I'm just like,
This was
You
a
got-
week-long project that what was it, Monday, that Pete was like, I don't want to watch 86.
I do not want to watch 86 again.
Because Miles said some awful
Oh yeah, that was because
Miles
Haz was
said-
yeah, Fully Cooley won like immediately. It had 19 points. The second highest shows had like 12. It was just I mean, it had a lot of legacy points, right? It's a show that it's been like Rosario 2 and Classroom of the Elite that have been, pretty high up there on our lists. to watch. You know, Jay's nominated it a few times. I've nominated it a few times. Like the group wants to get it done. For whatever reason, Pete was just like, oh damn, I think 86 won. And so I talked to Pat to like help him sell the bit. Like, I mean, I just like
Pat,
Yo,
you're so
I'm
good
not-
for
you
playing
got me.
along with
Yo,
that.
You got me.
Hey, listen, I it's worth it to troll Pete for one, and then two,
I love you for
also
playing along.
we
with that.
will
That's so
we
good.
will we will watch 86 someday. I cannot wait because I love that show, and I will fight Pete.
To the
like,
podcast viewers, bro.
I was so.
I'm sorry for the
I
audio
wasn't
only
really happy
listeners.
that
so
we would have
sorry.
been watching 86. I was happy that Pat would have won twice in a row, and I was like, holy fucking shit!
Yeah, I know that's never gonna happen though. So this is me.
May put a loud noise warning timestamp in there.
This
Oh,
was this payoff was the best part.
That
of
was
this
great.
episode.
That was great.
That was the greatest.
That was
payoff
I'm
ever.
fantastic.
sweating right now.
I was yo.
His haterade was like
Ooh.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
full bottle, 22 ounces of haterade, ready to go.
We should have all coordinated to vote for 86.
You can still
love
do
this
that
kid.
next time.
We should do that next
Well,
time.
if someone
As we
nominates,
You
get
should
to
not do that.
nominations.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
let
we
us
All
know.
right.
We'll do our nominations.
Wow, we got really unhinged there for a little bit, but it's okay. That's what
Okay,
happens.
we all
sometimes.
can have a silly, funny time sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually did an amazing job in the conversation of keeping everything together. So at the end here, we can unravel a bit.
Yeah, so guys, what are we nominating for? Gosh, what day will this be? This will be June 13th is when we will be watching this show. So we are nominating there's nothing to nominate around that. So yeah, just nominate some normal shows, some normal one-core shows or movies that we can watch. Happy gets to nominate. Happy, do you have a nomination ready? Your mic cut out on you.
I did. I'm having trouble with Discord at the moment. Yes, I do, and I'm gonna go back to the magical girl genre with Magia Record.
Magia Record. Okay, Miles, you're
Ooh.
writing this down, right? Yeah.
I am. I want to watch this apparently bad spin-off of Madoka.
We'll see.
Yeah, I played the gacha game while it was available in English. So I'm all for this.
Loser.
Exciting. All right. Well,
Yeah, shut up, Haz, you fucking.
bad, Miles. Bad. All right. Miles, what have you got actually? If you don't mind.
Yeah.
going next?
So shout out to friend of the podcast Emily/Mako. Last week in a stunning rendition of the Red Wedding, I stabbed her in the chest and nominated a show for Jay instead of her.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But I will listen to her this time, and I will nominate the movie Red Line, which she told us to watch. So I will do Red Line.
Nice. Redline. Alrighty. Kat, what about you?
So, in an uncharacteristic preparedness, I actually do have an anime. So we're gonna rewind about 5 years, I think. 5 years? No. 7 years. We're gonna rewind 7 years. I hope that's right. No, it is 5 years.
I'll let you know once you tell me what the
irrelevant.
show is.
Okay, we're gonna rewind 5 years, and I am going to nominate the 81 most popular show on Mal, which I'm not. I haven't watched it anyway. It is extremely popular, as I just said, with 1.2 million followers, members. I mean, and has a 7.26 on Mal. I'm gonna nominate Kakaguri.
Ooh.
I've
Going
never
after the Has vote, I see.
Yes.
Going not for the J vote at all.
I based a Pathfinder character off of Yumiko with some changes to make it socially acceptable.
I
should.
modeled a Black Desert character after Yumiko's.
It's not fucking hard though.
And yes, Kat, that was 5 years ago. Good job.
Hey, I was right twice.
And wrong twice as well.
Hey, fuck
Has,
you.
yeah, sorry. Has, what have you got for us?
June 13th. What's the weather? Yo, Pete, you sweating, bro? You
Woo.
sweating? What's the weather in Minnesota?
Woo.
It's 65 degrees down there.
It's 69. I'm not even kidding.
It's 69. Nice. Yo,
Nice.
Pat, you sweating over there? Y'all
I'm always
sweating over
sweating.
there? It's hot out,
I'm
right?
always sweating.
What you
I
think
am
that
always.
means? It's a
I'm actually trembling. It's kind of chilly outside.
All right, well,
He's just
Jay's
up here.
Canadian.
I'm not Canadian.
Anyways,
Don't you ever
Literally
come-
right here.
what I'm hearing is it's a hot boy summer. It's a hot girl summer. And what is more hot boy and hot girl than Rosario Vampire? Nominating part
Yeah, I
2,
already have it
baby,
down.
because it's
Uh,
sweaty.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I figured.
Yeah.
I don't know why I
You
even
need all
asked.
that for that.
Why did I even ask? Because I should have known.
He
that
could have
that
just
was,
left right then and there. We would have known he was an elf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, next time I'll do that. Don't worry. Pete, what have you got?
Man, mine's gonna be the exact opposite of Has, and I also want to give a shout out to friend of the podcast, Jay, who's actually on the podcast. On his Manga Melee podcast, talked about a manga called Akane Banashi, which sparked a memory in my head of an anime that I wanted to watch. It was regarded as a lot of people's anime of the year in 2016. I'm going to recommend Showa Rengoku Rakugo Shinju.
Yeah.
oh,
I recognize Rakugo.
I think I memorized 1 or 2 words you said there.
It most
What-
commonly
okay.
goes by Rakugo Shinju.
you going after the Patho?
Oh,
I'm
this-
going after
historical.
This-
this-
That's already number one. Yeah.
This show was in our
It's a Josei.
It was-
What
Yeah.
are we doing?
it was in
Yeah.
our battle of the decade, right?
It was.
It was.
Lot.
It was. I was like, I remember this name.
Is this the poem one where they poem fight each other?
Spoken word drama telling?
Storytelling.
Storytelling, yeah.
I wouldn't
It's
call
got
it
an
battle. The
8
battle one you're thinking of is what's it called? Not
Chihaya
That's the one I was
Chihaya-fu.
thinking of,
Chihaya-fu, yeah, where it's Karuta
Yep.
is the battle.
Wait,
Um,
wait,
Got
wait,
an
wait.
8.58 on Mal.
I'm
oh,
sorry.
happy? Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry to interrupt. Is this the one where they make the animation budget joke twice?
I have no idea. It is Studio Dean, so there's a good chance that that's the case.
Well, vote for it to find out.
We are unhinged as always.
We did so good for so long, but no one
did.
watches this far anyway. So
I never have a hinge.
No. Who's next? It's of course the J Factor. J
Yes.
Factor. What's up, Jay? What do you got?
Okay, so I was kind of going. I'm gonna go with something a little bit different from what everybody has suggested. You know, we've got a lot of like. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember what Kat and Miles
I can agree.
nominated. Okay, we got a lot of relatively not violent stuff, so I'm gonna go with something that is violence as an art form. I'm going to nominate Megalobox.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You're going crazy right now, Jay. That's the J Factor.
That's number 1. Fuck it.
I wish
Like,
I got that reaction when I nominated Megalobox.
You wouldn't.
I
was
already have.
I was
Dude,
sober at the time. No,
dude,
it's
you're
not.
missing the J Factor.
That's
Jay
just
could be
it.
like, I'm nominating Kiss Sis, and everyone would be like, let's fucking go.
I'm nominating Pupa.
What you need to do is bribe Jay to nominate that stupid comedy you want to watch.
I showed Has it, and he loved it. He gave it a 10 out of 10.
I have not been sober recently, guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean,
be
there's
awesome,
like
boss. That's
Yeah,
it.
my stupid
Yes.
comment that has an 8.3 on Mal.
I am
You take
sure it
advantage
is
of the plug,
good. You sell things terribly.
I-
You're an
I
awful
can't-
salesman.
For the record, I never would align with Pete. But off the record, it was a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Oh god.
All right.
Hey, fuck Has.
Johnny, what have you got? I
mean,
think I know what you
sound
got.
like a broken record, but this happens to like the other show I nominated to. It got second place like 5 times
Classroom
in a
of
row.
the
So yeah.
elite.
I
So
love
yeah. Anyways,
those
I'm gonna
part-time
be
weekend
nominating
watches.
Kiss Exodus. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
Nominating.
It's excellent.
Johnny, you're
or,
on the show.
or whichever one is this was like your sister is like the class president or whatever. Yeah, that's a classic hood banger or whatever it's called.
Classic hood.
Classic hoodbagger. Yes.
Classic.
Wait, excuse me, what?
I listen to classic hood bangers.
You mean
all
a
the time
certified
myself.
hood classic?
Classic.
Nah, dude, it's a classic hood banger. I love it.
How are you the youngest person in the podcast and make the oldest fucking opinions?
Did that piff
Johnny,
guy?
Johnny's gonna make me listen to like
opinions of like
watch
a-
like.
Dude, I'm like physically 17, mentally 71.
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say, mentally, Johnny is like a 71-year-old Chinese man.
Okay, so
Like-
Classroom of the Elite, Johnny.
I'm a boomer zoomer, so yeah, classroom deal.
All right, and then yeah, that I'm left. Damn, things need to come out faster. I want to nominate Summer Ghost, but it's it's not out here legally yet, and it apparently is going to be. So I'm not
be in
going to do
theaters.
that. It's going to be in theaters, yes, in Q3 apparently. That can't come soon enough. So I think I'm just going to go with 86 again. Actually, the show that will get us a ton of clicks, a ton of listens, and Pete and I could probably argue about it for an hour and a half on our own. So I think it would be a really, really good episode to talk about because I'd be curious to see whose sides you guys would take. It would
We'll
be
just the
Octagon
rest of
Drive
us
all
will
over
just
again.
provide like number scores to your arguments.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll like rate each of you like out of 10. You know,
On a scale from 1 to 86.
It's like the
Oh, yeah.
Gaffy thing all over again.
How disposable are you? There you go. All right. Well, perfect. All right. I think that is everyone's nominations for those weeks. So please, if you would like to vote, please comment, message us on Discord, do whatever you want. We would love to factor your votes into our scores and not into our scores. Pardon me, into our nominations and what we watch. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. And Pete closes out.
Yes, and if you've made it this far and you want to support the podcast, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on or watching us on if you are on YouTube. Next week, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to do like a list thing because I want more views and those episodes do numbers. So look for our filler episode next Monday. Otherwise, if you are here for Watch Club, join us in 2 weeks for Fooly Cooley. We will see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Peace.